All right. All right, moving on to the lining. I have folded in half so I could see my center of my lining pocket piece. This is wrong side up, right side down against the right side of my lining main piece, one of them. My main piece is also folded in half so I could see the center of it. I'm lining up those centers, and I want this to be about 2 3/4 inches down from that top center point. So that is about there, just like that. So it's a lot further down from the top than you're probably used to doing your zipper pockets. And it's a really slouchy bag, so you want it to be, you don't want it to be way up at the top or it'll be hard to find. And now we are going to install the zipper. Starting one corner over here. And sewing along your top line of your rectangle. Turning. There you go. And sewing along the bottom long line of your rectangle. All right. Folding in half. Snipping into the middle. And then cutting to that 1/2 inch before the edge and then doing a triangle. Cutting the other way to that 1/2 inch before you get to the edge, and then again cutting out your triangle to each corner, but not through the stitching. Okay, that's what you have. Turn this. Okay, I'm just turning the pocket through the opening to the other side of the lining piece. And I like to just finger press the seam open. For some reason, I just feel like it helps it sit better when I do this. I need to trim that thread, which apparently got pulled off. Okay, and then I like to press the seam open over here. There we go. And we're ready to add our zipper. What color zipper am I going to use? I think I'm just going to go with black. All right. Okay, I use zipper by the yard. You just want your zipper to be at least 10 inches so that it can go the width of the pocket here, okay? And I'm going to go use my zipper jiggy thing. All right, we're gonna turn this over and stick that zipper behind there. I know that you've probably already done this if you've done bags before. So Sorry if it's redundant. Some people may not have yet, so we'll just make sure that we know what we're doing here. So you're going to stick it behind that zipper rectangle to where the zipper pull is at one end, and bring it on over to the machine and top stitch around that zipper. And I found a good stitch length there. Okay. Make sure it stays nice and straight. And then make sure I'm nice straight there. Your zipper pull out of the way if you need to. And then the other side. Okay. Trimming up, trimming my threads. My zipper was a little long. Okay, now you have this, and you're going to lift that up. And starting from one bottom corner up around the zipper, or the pocket. And then around the other side. Okay. And then I'm going to just, this is the point where, like, if you had just two pieces, this would already be open. I'm folding this and folding this. And this is just going to help me stitch up the pocket later. Because the fold will already be in place. Okay. All right, that pocket is ready, and we're going to now, I'm just going to open my pocket now just to make sure that it's open, and folding my key fob connector, long edges in, and then attaching this way, and then folding them short edges, folding the short edges together, and then stitching a box to hold that in place on the hardware. Sometimes I get really tired of dealing with no, this will work, it's fine. Sometimes I go backwards so I don't have to worry about the hardware. The lump. And all right. a key ring about 2.5 inches down. With about 1/4 of an inch sticking out, just like that, against the right side of one of your pieces. That's about 2.5, yep. And this is not like, have to be exact, but that's about right. I'm gonna actually baste this in place. I don't remember if I say to baste it or if I just have you sandwich between, but it doesn't really make much of a difference. But I'm gonna baste it in. Okay. All right, so that key ring is there. And now I'm gonna line up my 2 lining pieces, right sides together. I'm gonna pin those in place. And here is where I say to stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And the reason is that because of the pleating, there can be some variance in the, basically the circumference of the top of the bag, of the exterior of the bag. Like if you're pleating, if your folds were a little off or whatever, because there's some variance there, I want to make sure that I left room for you to be able to adjust your lining if you need to. If you sew up your lining and then you go to stick it in your exterior and it doesn't look like the seams are matching up, or it's too small, or it's just not working, you can come in a little bit. Hopefully it's not too small, it's too big. So I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance to start. Back stitching on my key fob just to give it some extra support there. And I'm sewing the lining up just like I did the exterior. Sides, bottom, And before I go any further, what I'll do sometimes is just kind of eyeball that seam to seam length against the seam to seam length of the exterior of the bag. So, excuse me. It should be good and not too big or anything with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to take my seam to seam. There's my seam there, and there's my seam there. And I'm just going to measure across to the other seam, and I want to know, is my lining going to be big enough or small enough or whatever the case? And I think it's going to work. If I go from seam to seam, I'm going to pull on it just a little bit. I think that it's going to match up. So I just kind of eyeball that because, like I said, you don't want to find that out the hard way later on after you've done everything and you go to attach it. I do that little eyeball at that point. But if you do find later on that something doesn't match up quite right, hopefully the idea is that because you only did a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the lining, you could go back and adjust just at the top to allow the top of the lining to fit well with the top of the exterior. So here I'm boxing my corners just like I did on the other one, making sure my seams are lined up there too. There is no tucking on this one. The lining is made to fit in there without tucking it like you tucked the top. So don't do on the lining what you did on the exterior. All right, again, 1/4 inch boxing. Now that's boxed and that's boxed. Okay. Make sure again that your zipper pocket is open. We are at a point where we are going to attach the two pieces together. So I'm going to turn my lining right side out. Let me see if I can, excuse me. Turn my lining. Right side out. Keep my exterior wrong side out. Excuse me. And I'm gonna stick the lining inside the exterior. And I'm going to cross my fingers that it fits. That I did my pleating well enough that it fits. I'm lining up my seams. Like that. And lining up the seams on the other side. Excuse me. And then I'm going to just pin across. This bag is different because there's so much like eyeballing things and matching things up as you go, because you kind of have this moving, the pleats kind of give you these moving measurements a little bit, but this is actually working out really well. So, all right. So I didn't have to make any adjustments there. That's fitting in really, really well. So now I'm going to sew across the top with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Again, making sure that my pocket zipper is open, and now I can start from wherever. And do make sure that it's a nice 3/8 inch allowance so that you are not showing any of your basting stitches that you made earlier. You want to make sure that you're covering all of that. This is where it gets like, will a domestic be able to handle this? I think actually with this vinyl, I think my vintage domestic probably could have done this. It just depends on the machine you have. I had one tester actually do a like a crossbody strap for this instead of a chain, and I really actually liked it a lot. I'm thinking about doing that. We'll see. Oh, I love the chain. Excuse me. Oh, now of course you're not seeing me. There we go. Okay. Sorry guys. I'm just sewing across the top of the bag here. I am moving fast for me. Okay. We've sewn across the top of the bag. We're going to use the zipper pocket to turn the bag. Always forget to check to make sure you can actually see what I'm doing on the camera. Do we love this? I think we do. Okay, poke out your box corners there. And while I'm here, I'm going to turn the pocket in. And pin that in place so that I can sew it shut. And then it's a matter of attaching your spring gate rings and your whatever strap you're using, and and installing your frame if you are using a frame, which I am, so that will be. Sewing up my pocket now. I folded in the edges and I'm just sewing across. Okay. All right, that's the pocket. I'm going to shove that down in there. Oh, make sure I trim that up. Okay. And once the pocket's shoved down in there good, and I'm going to shove the rest of the bag down in there. Okay. I'm sorry, but I love this bag. Okay. All right, guys. All we have left to do is to put the frame in and put the spring gate rings on, and we're done. Ooh. Checking my seams, they did come out pretty good. Pocket is closed. That's the inside. All right, I'm gonna go get the frame. All right, I can't actually find the pliers that I normally use, but this will work. So people have a lot of questions about these frames. I wish I could say I'm an expert on purse hardware, but I'm not, but I'm learning. I have several of these and they're all the same, but not. So you would get them like this. They have the pin with a little handle kind of thing, which probably makes things pretty easy. Or you can get them where they come with like literally nothing to grab onto and you really need your pliers for that. This one doesn't even have a washer, I don't think. Like it's such a tight fit that you use your pliers on this top part to get it out, and then you just use your pliers to reattach it. So I think I'm gonna go with, and these are 12 inches, they're all 12 inches and they need to be for this bag. I think that maybe I'm gonna go with the one that doesn't have no, I'm gonna use the one that has a washer because I want you to see how that's done. Okay, so I don't know if I'll need my pliers for these because of the little handle that it's got, but you basically want to, on this one, I'm unscrewing the washer. Don't lose it. I'm putting it down here. Excuse me. And taking out the pin from one side. Okay. That's it, just one side. And now I'm gonna take this frame, and I wanna make sure my hands are clean. Okay. Excuse me. Fold your frame, your casings over and inward this way, because the whole idea is this, you know, has this like cushy outside. You don't want to necessarily see the casings sticking up. You want the casings inward. So when you attach your frame, you're going to attach it so that it's sitting down in this way with these folded over this way. So let me see if I can show you what I mean. I'm going to attach that in that way and keep this folded over and in that way. Your casing should be plenty big enough for these to go right through. You may have to jiggle them a little bit, but I'm just pushing them right through. And you can see it's trying to come up again. So if you see that happen, like just make sure that you're keeping it, trying to keep it folded over. Okay. I may have to readjust it after I get this out here. All right, the frame is just about through. I'm gonna push that a little bit further in. And now I'm just gonna make sure that these are, I'm folding this back over. It came up a little bit, so I'm folding my casing back down over that frame, excuse me, and into the bag. And now on the other side, I should be able to attach these two. Okay. All right, now I'm lining up the holes in these two sides here. And I'm sticking my pin back through. On some of these frames, you probably will need something to squeeze this. Like you'll need your pliers or something to get it to where these are, the holes are lined up really well. And I might need pliers for this. I can't tell yet. Yeah, I think I do. Okay, so if you need the pliers, I usually take them, and somebody who like knows about purse hardware is probably going to be like, what are you doing, Nicole? Get that out of the way, and squeezing them shut so that I can get that pin in there all the way through. Okay, or at least get it started so it's easier. There's like a little bit of spring action. You squeeze the bottom shut to the top of it here. There we go. Almost. Sorry guys, give me 1 second. There we go. Okay. There we go. Hopefully that's what I need. There we go. Okay, so it's squeezed shut and now all the way through, and now I'm gonna take my washer. Ooh, I almost got my bag leather with that. Be careful about that. And attach my washer back on. And use my pliers to tighten it. These are not the pliers that I would prefer to be using, but I can't find the other ones right now, so okay. There we go. And now I'm just going to make sure that my casing is in fact folded over. Gotta love this. And there you have it. Let's attach our spring gates. Hang on one second. Here's a spring gate. It opens like that. And you're just going to stick it right in there. Unless you used a D-ring, which was fine. You just already attached that, right? And there we go. Attaching my spring gate. See what I mean by like these connector pieces being so sewn in so close that you're not going to worry about the edges coming out. All right, so now your spring gates are attached and we just need ourselves a chain. I'm not sure, this wouldn't be the chain I would choose for this, but there you have it. Attaching to the spring gate. Okay, guys, it's done. All right, so slouchy and gorgeous and beautiful. Okay guys, that is it. Like I said, I had a tester do a crossbody strap, so feel free to do that if you want to. I'm considering it. But yeah, it's a pretty easy bag.